Hello, good evening, guys. I hope that you doing great. As usual, Dr. Muhammad Yaman with you. I was the whole semester giving the normal physiology for the second year generalist and as well for the dentist student. Today, I'm just gonna compress the time for the minimal questions, and I hope that it will be so benefit for you. You know, guys, there are the minimal questions. It will be so easy, I guess, for you. As well, this questions is only from 7 to 8 questions. You have to know all the symbols information about it. That's the condition to pass the physiology final exam for the second year, as well for the re-exam student. So I will start with the first question. What is the physiology? Yes, that's one of the questions that you maybe studied for a while. And as well, what is the normal physiology? First of all, guys, physiology, I wrote here the perfect answer you may answer in the final exam. There is many multimedia demonstration has been published, but I am really disagree with this ideas which were written there. So you may use this identification. So the physiology is a scientific displaying that the focus on the study of the normal function of living organisms, including humans. Since you speak about the physiology, you must speak about the purpose or the aim. Yes, so it's aim to understand the function of the mechanisms of the different organ system and how they interact, how they maintain homeostasis or the balance in the body. As well, you can say about the physiology uses of a variety of methods and techniques to investigate biological process, including experimental, clinical, and computational approaches, which it is a fundamental science that forms the basis of many other fields, including medicine, pharmacology, and as well neuroscience, among others. That will be perfect, really perfect to answer. That's the real idea of what does it mean physiology for the medicine student. Yes. Second point, what is the irritability? According to the physiology, there is many also other identification, but it's very wrong. I don't know from where they get it. So the irritability in physiology refers to the ability of cells or tissue to respond to a stimulus. So the stimulus can be internal or external as a classification, and it can include things like changes in temperature, pH, pressure, chemical substances, or nerve impulses. That's according to the irritability. And when a cell or a tissue is exposed to stimulus, it can respond by changing in its activity. For example, by contracting, secreting some substance, or fearing an action potential. So this ability to respond to a stimulus is often essential for the proper functioning of a cells and the tissue in the body. Here there is an example about it of a tissue that exhibits irritability and include muscles tissue, nerve tissue, and glandular tissue. According to the excitability in physiology, it also refers to the ability of cells or tissue to generate electrical signals in response to a stimulus. If you know, we spoke about the previous slide about the irritability, and we say that it's the ability of cells or tissue to respond to a stimulus. Here, guys, it's the ability from the tissue and the cells to generate electrical signals in response to a stimulus. So this ability to generate electrical signals is also a fundamental property of many cells in the body, including nerve cells, muscle cells, and certain types of glandular cells. When a stimulus is applied to an excitable cells, it results in a change in the cell's membrane potential, which can then trigger the generation and propagation of an electrical signal such as action potential, which we gonna see in the next common slides. Don't forget to tell that excitability is a key feature of the nervous system, where it's play an important role to transmitting information between cells and throughout the body. According to the action potential, guys, it's like very important. Before explain the action potential, you may draw the directions and don't forget to draw it as well. Membrane potential, you have to also write the element on it, time and the unit of the time. It's really very important. There's many students, they are forgetting actually this simple information, but it really does affect the result or the final result of the action potential. And we will speak about how it's starts, since it is in the resting membrane, and how it's gonna return also to the resting membrane, and which ions will be playing an important role to make action potential as well. Here, guys, I would really explain simple, and it's very, very important actually to know the stages. We will compare them from the inside membrane and extra membrane. There is many channels here, sodium as well, potassium, sodium, and as well other channels. It will be also being present there. In the first stage, where is a resting membrane, it will be high potassium being present and low sodium. In the outside membrane, there is high potassium inside, so outside will be low. And since there is a low sodium inside, so outside will be high with sodium. Axon membrane potential, if you see in the previous slide, we spoke about it, and I mentioned, maybe I will return to it a bit later. The axon membrane potential, it must be start minus 70 millivoltage. Sodium potassium pump working, yes. Voltage gated sodium channels, it's closed, and voltage gated potassium channels closed but leaking. That's according to the resting membrane. In the depolarization, guys, inside the membrane, high calcium, high potassium and high sodium. Outside the membrane, there is low potassium and decreasing sodium. The axon membrane potential gonna start from minus 70 to plus 30 millivoltage. Sodium and potassium pump working, yes, both of them are working. The voltage gated sodium channels, it's open, and the voltage gated potassium channels closed, but it's also still leaking. That's why sometimes some students, they tell us, okay, the potassium is closed, there is a leaking, guys. You must also pay attention about this point. In the repolarization, inside the membrane, there will be like decreasing of potassium and high of sodium. Outside the membrane, there will be increasing for potassium and relatively low sodium. The axon membrane potential decreases from 30 to minus 70. Sodium potassium pump working, yes. Voltage gated sodium channels closing or closed, yes. According to the gated potassium channels, it will be open. The last stage I am interesting to tell, it's the hyperrebularization, and the pronunciation is very, very important actually. Hyperrebularization. Inside the membrane, there will be decreasing for potassium, sodium starting to decrease as well. Outside the membrane, low of potassium and sodium will be increased. Axon membrane potential, it will be from minus 70 to minus 80 millivoltage. Sodium potassium pump working, yes. Voltage gated sodium channels, it will be closed. Voltage gated potassium channels, it will be also closed as well. That's like some information about the stages, and the information about the ions will be like enter and exit into the cell. Let me like explain here. It's a nice picture, I guess you may use it. Here there is like a resting membrane. In the resting membrane, guys, all voltage gated sodium channels and most voltage gated potassium channels are closed, as has been explained in the previous slide. Here as well, sorry, picture number B is depolarization. The response like to a depolarization, according to the some channels of sodium, it will be open and allowing sodium ions to enter into the cells. As well, here we have picture number 3, hyperbolization, how it's like gonna return from minus 70 to minus 80. I can return to the action potential and explain some like words. It may also help. As well, I am always like compress the time to tell you about its time, and as well here the membrane potential. You may write also the units from minus 90 to plus 30. Here also there is like a diagram. It's I guess it's also so useful for you. That's explain the ions, the entering of it, and how it's like gonna change the waves according to the ions which will enter into the cell. So here it will be like the resting membrane potential. In the number 2, like here, it will be like depolarizing stimulus. Number 3, where like I am showing here, I may like use the laser. In the number 3 here, guys, membrane depolarize to the threshold. Yes, that's how it must be written. from